So hello from Green-Mopeds in London. So today we are taking out a new bike from SunRa. It's called the Miku Super, and it's as you can probably tell, it's a motorbike style bike. It's got quite a unique design, which is one of the reasons we are taking it. But it's also quite interesting because of where it fits in the sort of motorbike setup, or lineup rather. As you probably all know, there are not too many places to go for a motorbike style bike if you're looking for electric in this price bracket. You know, Zero, Energica, Harley Davidson, blah blah blah. You know, what, 9 times the price of one of these bikes. So we're not talking about them. We're talking about in the sort of sub £5,000 market. Okay, so your choices are pretty much a Horwin CR6, a Super Soccer TC Max, a Super Soccer TSX, or a TC, or some other brand that probably isn't on the grant or is imported directly. Okay, so this one fits in somewhere between a Super Soccer TC and TSX and a TC Max, I would say, and hopefully that'll become relevant as I go around. But a bit before that, so just to recap a little bit on SunRa. So SunRa are out of China, and they have 12 electric moped and motorbike products. They have a couple of kick scooters, I think they even have a few bicycles, but they do 4 million units a year. So if you compare that to, well, NIU, 700 odd thousand in total. So these companies are massive, a bit like your Deere. Your Deere do 6 million. So these are massive companies, which hopefully should mean that they know what they're doing. They've been doing it for a long time. And therefore the quality is good. And there's nothing to say so far from what I've seen that isn't the case with this. In the UK, SunRa do this one. They also do the sort of standard Miku, but it's only 800 watts, so I'm not sure it's really going to make it in this sort of setup. There's my phone going off. They also do something called Ergonomics, which is sort of a Vespa style one. It's pretty much the same as a Artisan EV2000, something like that. So it looks like a Vespa. And then they do the Robos. So the Robos are there's 2 of those, 12-inch wheels, and look, parking enforcement on a NIU. I know that guy. So the Robos, there's a Robo and a Robo S. The Robo is 3 kilowatt, 28 mile an hour, single 72 volt battery. And then the Robo S is the same motor, same wheel size, same everything, but 2 batteries and 50 mile an hour bike. The reason that's important is because this bike is basically taking the Robo S controller, the 3 kilowatt Robo S controller, same wheels, 2 72 volt batteries, although they are different, but they still are 72 volt for 20 amp hours. The reason I know they're different is because these come with the Jigori connectors, and the ones on the Robo, apart from being a different shape, do not. So they've almost certainly come from a different manufacturer too. Because what happens is, if you actually look at the batteries, which we'll do as part of the static review, you'll actually see where they've come from. It might be Greenway or something like that. People do ask, should I be concerned with them not being a brand that I know, like a Panasonic out of an NIU, or ATL, which is another massive manufacturer of batteries. Personally, I'm not too worried, because at the end of the day, they are still, within the box, within the battery box is a whole stack of 2-volt lithium-ion batteries. And 2-volt lithium-ion rechargeable batteries are not new technology. So to me, I'm not too bothered. I mean, we have changed batteries across all brands. Well, not all brands, but across the brands that the biggest brands in the UK. So I wouldn't be too worried that this is not saying Panasonic on it. I also wouldn't be too bothered, although some people are, that this isn't a Bosch motor. Again, this is not new technology, these hubless motors. A hubless motor is actually a sort of derivation of a ceiling fan, as in the thing that you have in the ceiling that spins around cooling your room. It is the same basic technology as that. It's brushless, it's got magnets in it, etc., etc., and you would think that that'll be fine. But but just to be clear, this is not Bosch, and it's not Panasonic. Okay. What it is 72 volt. So I keep going on about battery voltage. If you were to compare a 60 volt 3 kilowatt motor or a 48 volt, another NIU. If you were to compare a 60 volt 3 kilowatt motor and a 72 volt with a 3 kilowatt motor, you would see a difference, and the difference is acceleration, which we will be showing you when we do a 0 to top in a little while. Okay, so around this sort of level, 3 kilowatt motors, you've got, for example, and I'm not saying any of them are good or bad, I'm just saying in comparison, you've got an NIU MQI GT, 3 kilowatts at 48 volt. You've got a Super Socko TSX and TC, 3 kilowatt, 60 volt. And then you've got this one, for example, which is 3 kilowatt, 72 volt. Okay, and you will see, if you did them in a drag race, you would see that this one would win, merely by the fact that it's got a higher voltage on its battery. Okay, so that is just a function of having more power, or the motor with more power in the battery. What you'll often find though is that it will lose on range, and that is down to the amp hour of the battery. Okay, so this is two 72 volt 20 amp hour batteries. Okay, so you've got 40 amp hours in total. The quoted range of this bike is a quite frankly unbelievable 90 miles. It won't do that. It might do that at 10 miles an hour, under 20 kilometers an hour, but if it's only got 40 amp hours in total, it won't be doing 90 miles. It depends what you want, obviously, as we always say, as to which way you're going to go. But what I can tell you is this bike feels quite sprightly when you're riding it. Okay, I am in mode 1 and I'm doing, it says 33. What I've also noticed about this bike is, just coincidentally, the setups of the modes fall quite nicely into our speed limits. Okay, so obviously, say 28 is 45 kilometers and 40 is 65 kilometers, but mode 2 goes into 40 mile an hour, just coincidentally. Okay, which I will now show you. Okay, so it's purely fortuitous, I think. I don't think they set it up this way. Mode 3 happens to be 50, so you've got mode 1 that does 30, thereabouts, mode 2 that does 40 or thereabouts, mode 3 that does 50, so quite handy. Okay, but more about other sort of standard things that you want to know. So it says 90 miles, I expect more like, if you used it realistically, more like 50. Okay, but that should be enough, you would think. 2 batteries that are under the lid. Okay, so down here, you open the lid actually opens forwards, which is different, I suppose. There's a little tray there with 5 litres of space, so no space for a helmet. As yet, no rack. That's being looked at apparently. So this is a rucksack based luggage setup. 5 litres will get you a lock, chain just about, The charger, yeah, the charger should fit. Okay, so that's good. And then you lift out the little tray, and then underneath that there are the 2 batteries. You have to put the steering lock on to take those batteries out, so they are sort of doubly protected. You've got to get under the lid and then have the key to set the steering lock to then open the top of the battery compartment, which is under the tray. Okay. You do get a single charger, as in a charger that's only capable of charging 1 battery off the bike. So this has come up quite often. NIU, for example, do a splitter box where you plug the charger into a splitter and then you get 2 leads that go out into the actual batteries. Quite a good idea. But this one only has 1 lead. So charging time is quoted as 4 hours. Again, that's per battery, I would say. So you might want to invest in a second charger. It does have regen. If I brake, you'll actually see that the battery levels animate, which is showing that regen is active. Okay, so quite a nice little feature. NIUs have a little symbol that comes up, but this one, which you'll see in a minute when I brake more, this actually has the battery levels there animate. Okay, so quite a good display. When you turn it on, it's quite colourful, quite clear. I have to say, I'm not ultimately convinced what that left hand this is doing. It does go up as you go faster, but I'm not sure if that is telling you anything other than you're going faster. It's not like telling you, revs, which you get on a CPX. So you see the regen there on the meters, the battery levels, to show that I'm regen. Okay. Other thing to notice is that the modes are up and around. You can't go from 3 to 2. You have to go 3, 1, 2. Okay, so here you see 3, 1, 2, 3, 3, 1, 2. Oh, now it started going down. Alright. That wasn't what he did yesterday. I'll have to try that again in a minute. What we're going to do now is actually just do a 0 to top. So we're just going to see how quickly it gets to 50 in mode 3. Hopefully that will help you. But it says in the manual, or on the specs, 8.5 seconds to 50, so 80 kilometers an hour. We'll see if that's true. I wouldn't be surprised, bearing in mind it's got a full battery. It's not so cold today. Obviously, what you've noticed from the display is there's no reading of range, which, as in range left, you would be estimating that from, I don't know, working out the actual chunks on the battery. Okay, so it's regen now. What you've also probably just heard is the indicators make noise, so that's another good thing. So while we're stationary, just go through it. So auto lights. Okay, so you can turn the lights on and off here. Okay, but there's also auto. So if I press that, you see this little A comes up. So they will automatically turn the lights on. Obviously there is running lights. Okay, this little blue symbol here, Miku Super, on both sides. But then obviously the lights are always on as a standard now on motorbikes and vehicles. Okay, so you can't turn the lights off completely, but you can turn off the auto feature and then just use this switch in combination with this switch to get you full beam, etc, etc. Okay, it's got reverse, definitely don't need that, to be honest. And then you've got going into parked down here, so throttle's dead, and then coming out of parked, it says ready, and then going through the modes. Right, okay, so it's doing what I saw yesterday. Maybe something changes when you're riding it, because it was only going round yesterday. Maybe, yeah, now it's gone back to 2. Okay, I have to look into that. Alright, so so you've got your horn indicators which make noise, hazard lights are over here as well. Okay, so the thing about this bike is the actual design and how it's set up. So when you see it on the pictures, you'll see that it's sort of like the rear seat is hanging. There's nothing that apparently supports it. Okay, so it's just the design that they've chosen, which makes it quite distinctive. But it is quite a small bike. Okay, it's 12-inch wheels. So as I said, basically the wheels off of the Robo S. Okay, 12-inch. It's not the smallest. NIU have got an MQI Plus Sport, which has 10-inch wheels, but it's obviously not the biggest. So a Super Socko TS, TSX, they're all on 17-inch wheels, and the CRS6 is on 17-inch wheels. So it makes it look a bit like a mini moto sort of thing, but obviously without the noise. Okay, it's quite a distinctive design. We'll talk about that more in the static review. But what I'll do now, hopefully there'll be enough road for me to do this. This road joins the A3 and there is a 50 limit ahead. So we'll put the times up afterwards just to show you how quickly it does get to top. And then we'll go through, carry on and talk a bit more about the bike. Okay, so let's do that in a minute. Okay, so, alright, so just, let's see what happens. $30, $40, $50. Okay. So I'm not sure if that's going to be 8 seconds or not, but as you can see, it's pretty sprightly, and it is because 72 volt. Okay, and I've mentioned this before that with other bikes, if you feel that they're a bit lackluster, even despite them being 3 kilowatts, 4 kilowatts, it's a function of their voltage on the batteries. Okay. Alright, so hopefully that gave you an impression. We'll put the times up, as I said. Anyway, so more about the bike. So it is on the government OLEV grant. Okay, just like all the other bikes we do, bar one. So that means that you will get the 3-year warranty on the batteries and the 2-year warranty on the bike. So you should have pretty much peace of mind with that. It is 3,499. So it's £200 more than a Robo S. You could argue why, bearing in mind it is the same technology basically, but as I said, the batteries are different, maybe they cost them more, but it fits quite well into the pricing of its competition. So a Super Socko TC and TSX, 3 kilowatts max, but 28 miles an hour out the box, and sort of 40 if you de-restrict it, which is now getting harder and harder. That is 3,000. So you would think, okay, I get that, it's rightly more expensive than a TSX and a TC. And a TC Max, which is 5 kilowatts, 72 volt, one big battery, but goes 60, that is 4,299. Sorry, it's 4,249. So again, you could sort of see that it does fit from a price perspective in terms of, you know, is it right? Pricing it less than a TSX I don't think would have been right, unless they wanted to sell a load, I guess. So it is about the right price, I would say, for what you're getting. And that is after the grant. Okay, so that's after your 20% off. Alright. It comes in 3 colours. So this is the black, which comes with a sort of brown, light brown seat. Then there is a sort of rather striking red and a quite bright blue. And they're mixing it with some sort of silver panels as well. So it's not just straight, you know, blue, red, black, etc., etc. Okay. As you can see, despite it being on, you know, 12-inch wheels, it's fine. You know, there are good reasons that people choose bigger wheels. It has got, as you can see, ventilated and hydraulic brakes front and back. Okay, so that's fine. The wheels, I mean, if the wheels had been small and narrow, I guess you could argue that that's not such a good idea. But these ones are fairly wide. I'll talk more about that on the static review. Okay, but all in all, it seems to handle just fine. I mean, a lot of these bikes, with small wheels, or a lot of these bikes in general, are not being used for, you know, they're not there to replace a super bike, or they're there for commuting, and therefore the fact that it's running on small wheels. I mean, I am 6 foot, so 1.85 m, which happens to be the same length as the bike. And I guess my knees are a bit far forward. One of the things that they've chosen on this bike is to make it a bucket seat. Okay, although it is still capable of holding 2 people. You can see down there are the foot pegs for the second person. The way that they've made the sort of design does give the bike quite a wide body. Okay, wider than most bikes actually, including the bigger ones like the CR6. If it feels wider, and they've just made it like that. I guess they don't particularly have anything underneath here. It is just an aesthetic choice. Okay, but consequently, your legs, you know, as a 6 foot person, are probably a bit further forward than they would sort of have built this bike for. But you know, it's not an issue. I suppose the only thing I would say is that obviously the bucket seat makes you sit where you have to sit. You know, you can't. There's no real place to move. You have to sit exactly where it's put you. So you might want to think about that when you test ride it. Okay, but all in all, as I said, I think if I had any input into designs of bikes, I would say to some of the others, move to 72 volt, because you will get performance that you will see in this bike that you won't see in other 3 kilowatt bikes, because they've got 48 volt or 60 volt batteries. Range is a different topic. You know, ideally this would be 2 72 volt 40 amp hour batteries, so 80 amp hour in total, but that isn't there yet. So if you want acceleration, you might pick one of these. If you want range, you might pick another one. But bearing in mind, the Super Socker TSX or TC has one battery by default, which is 35 to 40 miles. You're going to get more than that on this, and if you added the second battery to the TSX or TC, you're talking about £4,000, over £4,000 actually. Basically the same price as a TC Max, so you probably wouldn't do that. So it is positioned well, I would say. Alright, so that's pretty much all I was going to say, other than it's got some other little smart features. It hasn't got an app per se. Well, it's got an app, but it hasn't got the tracking, which you've got on Super Socker and NIU, but it's got an app for functions or features that it can enable or disable, including this, which you see on the Robo S. That is a fingerprint reader, so you can protect your bike with a fingerprint. Okay, and the way you enroll your finger into the app or into the bike is through the app. Okay, and there's other things that you can do through the app, you know, remote start, open the lid and things like that. But lots of people would say, well, I'd rather have a GPS unit. But of course you can fit a GPS unit. We have other customers who have fitted GPS units to electric bikes, like a Horwin EK3. It's not an issue. And then you'd get an app that is built for tracking a bike, just like an NIU app does. It won't be checking it, obviously, but that's what you will get. Okay, so all in all, for the money, if you want something which got a fairly unique design, something that's quite sprightly, it's only 109 kilos in weight, and it can take 150 kilos in weight, so something that's sort of small, relatively light, this might well be the one for you. So I hope you found that useful. If you would like to come and have a test ride, then please feel free. Be sure to subscribe to our YouTube channel, and I hope that was informative, and thanks very much.